to make a purposeful note to start 5 minutes earlier. We're always 5 minutes late.
All right. Connection. Here we go.
Well, welcome to the Human Bleed podcast, guys. And today we got an exciting episode for you today. Stop correcting in your relationships. You need to take connection over correction.
Yeah.
And the reason why this, before we get going, guys, speaking of connection, look what my son made me. This is Jesus' snow globe. Minus the snow, minus the globe. How cool is that? So he said, do I want Jesus to be with you always? Isn't that cool? All right.
That's connection.
Stop correcting, guys. That's connection right there,
connection.
Man.
Yeah.
Stop correcting. Okay? When we think about how relationships are value, and if you've been tuning in long enough, you've seen that we focus 100% on the value of the individual, therefore the value of the relationship, and then therefore how this changes everything in your life. We spend more time at work than we do like awake, hopefully present if you listen to us. But then we get to be at home, right? And so I want to go deeper with you today, James. This is something I teach in the Reset. Catherine teaches in White Picket Fence. I know you focus a lot on how you can connect when you know who you are. Yeah. And I think that we as people, we inherently correct, and we don't even realize it. Last night, Catherine and I were doing our call-in talk show, Moral Marriage Podcast Live, where people can call in. And you can see it with the comments. You can see it with the conversation, how we inherently say he or she, like we blame. Yeah. And then when we talk about what we need, we're correcting instead of connecting and getting what we need.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And it's a buzzword now. I want connection. I want intimacy. I want this. I want that. And everybody's giving you tips and hacks and things of that nature. But ultimately it comes down to this thing. And I'll talk about what I mentioned with the intimacy program that we teach, is that intimacy, AKA connection, is a shared reality. And shared reality in truth. It's not something that you can manufacture. It's something you have to be. You have to be yourself, because otherwise, if our relationship, if I'm always putting on, whatever presentation I want you to see, and you're putting on whatever presentation you want me to see, we never really know each other, and we may seem and feel connected, but we're not connected because we're not authentic. We're not really building. We're trying to present rather than just be. And I think that that's an important distinction, that connection is, people focus on the fruit of it. Oh, we had a good time. Oh, we had an intimate moment. Oh, we shared this, we shared that. But it goes much deeper than that. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. And you know what I want to start with? I want to start with our children before we even think about our spouse, because I'll tell you why. When we start to think about the workplace and how this, like, you have a hierarchy in most workplaces, and we often correct instead of connect. So therefore we start to affect the bottom line. But let's use our children, because it's such an easy example. We most of us watching and listening have kids. Okay. And it's really easy to start to tell your kids what to do, how to do it. They better listen to me.
Right.
I'm the parent. I want to tell you a little story about last night. It was Riddick's birthday, but man alive, I mean, they were being little assholes. I mean, they were screaming, they were crying over a special cookie that Riddick wanted for his birthday.
Boy.
And Mama cut it up into pieces. And, we wanted them ultimately to know that you don't have to scream or cry for the cookie. The cookie is right there and it's yours. Okay. But when I heard Catherine with the kids at first, I heard she was very frustrated. Yeah. Right. And talking about the crying. And now keep in mind, we all get to this point. There's a lot that goes on there. Catherine has a massive long fuse. I was mentioning that yesterday when we were speaking. But when I stepped in, I started to ask them, what's going on? What's happening? I started to hear their perception, their reality, right? As you say, intimacy, connection is based off shared reality, right? Now, Catherine obviously got to the end of her rope, okay? But what I started with was trying to understand, okay, why is Riddick's face in the counter screaming? Why is Briar tears running down her face? And why is Vale stunned? I wanted to get each of their perspectives. Right. Because if I can connect with them, I can get the screaming to stop, that's obviously frustrating Mama, the tears to stop, that's maybe making Mama feel guilty, and get Vale back to what's going on, shared space, right? That's right. And so, and I'm not saying Catherine does this, Catherine's almost always awesome. But when we work as a team, when I'm not awesome, she can be awesome,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You know, but the value of connection there is so that we can start to get peace first. The moment we start going, hey, what in the world are you screaming for? The cookie's right there. And it takes a lot to not do that.
Right.
But we can get to this later.
That's right.
First connect.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting because, as a parent, you know so well how to do things after the fact.
Mhm.
When you've raised toddlers and you've got preteens, man, I know how to deal with the infants. When you've raised preteens and teenagers, oh, I know how to deal with those youth. And then you get adults, you go, I didn't know a darn thing, And so the cool thing about connection, especially with kids, is you just learn as you go. But you have to be intentional about the fact that you don't know. You read the book, you heard the pastor, you talked to grandma, and they told you how to set strings straight. And one of the things that I used to do with my kids, because with 4 or 5 kids running around the house, it was always a possibility of noise and a possibility of mess. And they'd come running in, and I had 4 specific rules: no running in the house, no yelling in the house, no eating anywhere outside of designated spaces, and you wipe your butt on the toilet. That's it. And that was just sort of like a pressure point of going, there's a space and time and place for everything. You don't wipe your butt in the kitchen, and you don't run in the house, and you don't eat in the living room, stuff like that. But they would come into the room and they'd be talking, and I said, wait a minute, how do we enter the room? And they would answer, with our ears. Now, what happened with that? And that's not a bad thing, because it teaches children to walk into a space attentive. But that wasn't my intention. My intention was I didn't want to hear the noise, and I didn't want to be interrupted. And so I never took it from enter into the room with your ears, then let's have a conversation that's not crazy. And so my children grew up thinking, Daddy doesn't want to hear what we have to say. And so there was a season there in my life I had to actually compensate for that. And I tried to fix it. And then I realized you can't fix it. You just have to begin to present connection, because that's what correction looks like. Oh, let's do it this way. Let's do it, even when it's positive. Let's do it this way. Let's do it that way. Let's make sure that everything is supposed to be the way it is. It's not always don't do, or, you did this wrong. Sometimes it is literally, this is the way I want it. And that doesn't build connection. It doesn't build connection. So a better way of just that in my own life of learning is just to have a conversation outside the moment. Hey, when we come into space, watch how Daddy goes into this room. He's going to go in with the ears. And you go in, and then you explain, did you see when it was my turn to talk, I spoke, and then I listened for the other person? So we teach active listening by having the conversation when it's not an issue. The same thing we talk about in relationships. Let's practice it when it's not on fire, putting out fire.
Well, and that's the whole point. I mean, Maria's saying, help us connect when we feel like we're butting heads. And by the way, thank you to the other comment here. I'm so glad that you're learning and it's working for you. That's so wonderful. I love stories like that. We can't connect if we correct first. There is going to be a correction, but it's going to be a lesson. And that's why I described yesterday as Catherine being my teacher. When she learned to connect with me and be soft with me, I was more receptive, which is exactly what you want. See, kids, like your story, James, kids are trying to make it about them because that's all they know. Kids are egocentrical. We joke that kids are little narcissists, right? Like, because they don't know any other way but then try to get their needs met, try to get your approval, try to get you to watch me. We're at the playground for Riddick's birthday party yesterday. All the parents, every kid screaming, Mom, watch me, Dad, watch me.
Right.
Our kids are all the same. So if we understand where they're at, we can connect. And we're going to get to this with the workplace, and we're going to get to this with your relationship as well, Maria, okay? But I have some terrible news. I have contractors in my house, and they just arrived. They're supposed to come tomorrow. I have to go move some vehicles. So, James, I'm going to get you to just take it over, dude. Do what you do.
Sir,
okay?
Not a problem.
All right.
So we're talking about connection, and we're talking about connection over correction is sort of a buzz of the way we handle things here. And, when it comes to connection, a lot of people just sort of look, and Cass will bring this up a little bit as we continue the conversation when he gets back, but we often want the outcome, and we're looking for, what's it called? We're trying to get the reward. We're trying to say, I want to get connected because I want intimacy, or I want friendship, or I want to feel a certain way, or I want something. And that connection is often almost impossible to get when we're chasing after it. And one of the things that we see with the people that Cass and I work with a lot is they're like, what we really want is just closeness. What we want is proximity. What we want is to feel like there's some type of connectivity here. But then the things that we're actually doing are not necessarily um, walking in a way of congruence with what we desire. And so we go and we think, well, why isn't this working? Because we lecture or we talk. We have a program that we've entitled STFU. And you know what that stands for? Just shut up. And what it means is what we teach there is to learn how to come into the situation, not with something to say, but with something to learn, with something to come to the table with as a way of curiosity. And what that does is it builds a space where connection takes place. And I have this premise that I believe that intimacy is a shared reality. And that reality is always founded in what is true and evident, not in what is assumed or felt. Those things are signals and data. They're not necessarily truth. And so there are things that we do in the sense of our daily lives with our relationship, with our marriage, with our friendship, with our kids, and then even with our workplace and the people that we work with and the people we relate to in the community, that not only just doesn't build connection, but I would say that to go a step further, it actually disengages connection. And so we get to a place where we're thinking, well, why am I losing ground here? Because we're not listening. We're not being present. We're coming in with an agenda. And you have to think that, well, I have a place where I want to go. I want to be heard. Well, being heard and being understood are not necessarily the same thing. But if we want to be understood, if we want to be seen, if we want to be heard, then we must be the one listening to hear, seeking to understand, and actually exhibit what we want for ourselves in the relationship with someone else. And so the first thing that we talk about, especially with some of the guys that we work with and some of the women and men that we work with, is the lecture. And you know what the lecture sounds like? Like the lecture for me, it was dad's rules. And even, it was like, oh, here comes the rules. And I always have something to say. Now, what I had to say and what we have to say in this point is not that it's wrong or bad or even with the intention of telling people how it is. But when someone comes into a conversation and they feel like what they're going to get from you is this treatise or this speech or just information, like I want to fix it or I want to tell. So let me give you an example. You come in and everything is the end of the day and everything is just normally the way it is. It can be a little chaotic, can be a little wind down. People are exhausted. And you come in and you see the living room in a mess, or you see, your spouse over there and he or she is not engaging. And instead of doing something instead of walking into a place of connection, you walk into a place of explanation, or you walk into a place of inquisition, not curiosity, but inquisition. So what are you doing? So, hey, I really wish you could spend some time with me. Now, are these bad questions? Or this is a bad statement? No, it's not a bad statement. But the energy behind it a lot of times is what's eroding the connection. And the reason it is because if you say, hey, what are you doing? That's not curiosity in every sense, because that could also come with, with strings attached in that sense. So to come in to just say, hey, how was your day? Is different than what are you doing? You see the phone in their hand. I really would love to spend time with you, but you're always talking on your phone. And you know what I learned today? I read an article about how phone use is actually probably the second cause of divorce in America. Is that what you're after? Are you looking for divorce? And that doesn't build connection. And what I was talking about, Cass, is just moving into some of the things that can actually erode connection. And with good intention, we're just trying to have conversation or share what we feel or lead people to certain ways. But the way we do it is often what's tearing up the connection. And I was talking about lecturing and coming in that context of just curiosity over inquisition. And that's where I was there.
That's actually beautiful, because last night we had a woman who was trying to basically say she was staying with a man because she is so happy that he accepts her for her flaws, and we had such a hard time trying to get her to acknowledge what the flaws were. And inherently, as she's kind of processed this with us, she ends up starting to say, how she's trying to get him to meet her needs. Okay. And in reality, what you just said there is what's the problem is we are correcting people for not meeting us. So if we talked about this phone example you're doing, a typical thing somebody would do as a man coming into my program is he would say, I need you to be with me here. Can you put your phone down? Instead of actually trying to be cute, like I would teach my program, like just kind of quietly push the phone down and just, hey, how you doing? And then don't take the rejection personally, because if they're scrolling on their phone in this perfect example and not wanting to talk to you, then it's not going to it's just going to aggravate them. If you just go in there and say, this is what I need, why aren't you talking to me? You never talk to me. You always do this, using absolutes. And if we took this to the workplace too, we see this all the time now, right? We go in there and, we could take a tour. We can see everybody's on their phone. Are they all working? Absolutely not. Right? A lot of them are scrolling. A lot of them are doing other personal emails. A lot of them are texting, right? DMing, doing whatever they want to do.
Right.
Now, if you as a boss go in there and say, hey, I need you to work more, you need to put that phone down. All you're going to do is tell them that, like, I don't even like being here, right? That's the thought process going to go through their mind. I'm not doing my job already.
Yeah.
So why would you think you're going to get more productivity out of them? Why don't you find out what's really important to them, like why they're on their phone? Right?
Yeah.
If you can understand that, because chances are, what if they're fighting with their wife or their husband?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we don't have a productivity problem. We have a real productivity problem.
Right.
We have one that's affecting the bottom line for weeks upon weeks upon weeks, until years, until the divorce, until the grief, the loss. Now we're talking like a 7-year problem if this employee stays around, or your costs for turnover, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because you just think about just the protocol of learning to become the person who's not distracted by a telephone. Think about what it would be like to have an entire team. We're talking about business right now, but think about what it would be like to have an entire team where everybody enters the space with a foundation of what they want to accomplish that day, because it's who they are. And anything that gets in the way of them being them is not going to happen. This is, and this happened, and this is really what we get. This is the meat and the potatoes, the heart of what we try to get to in the context of relationships, and what works in relationships at home, works in relationships at work, works in relationship with community, works in relationship with kids. It just works everywhere. And so instead of trying to train the behavior, like I talked about in the beginning, hey, we enter the room with our what? Our ears. I needed to first model the behavior. And then secondly, I needed to know what I wanted. What we often think we want is just a behavioral change. We want people to meet us. We want people to love us. We want people to know what we're saying is we want you to act like you want to meet us. We want you to pretend like you love us. We want you to make us feel like we're wanted and that we're focused. We want to make you, I want to walk into the room as a supervisor, and I want to feel like you guys are so excited to be there doing the work for me, getting paid half of what you should get paid.
100%.
But that's not it. We don't want you to pretend. That's the problem. We want you to be. And that's how to get people.
Here's the reality. Let's use a couple examples like that. Okay. So like people often wish their partner would be super excited. Okay. Like right when you said, when you walk in the door, right? Phones down, run up, give a kiss. I saw this video one time. It was like a year of the greeting from the wife, super excited to see her husband. I think that is beautiful.
Yeah.
In reality, that's not connection. That's what just looks pretty, right? Because it is great. She is excited. It doesn't mean Catherine's not excited if she's not running to the door to greet me. Or we have one of my clients whose wife started taking his boots off when he got home. You know what I mean? She's just so happy, right? And Catherine, I think that's gross. But like, whatever, man. They love each other.
Yeah.
But in reality, just because you want something sweet like that, it doesn't make it connection and truth.
That's right.
In fact, often when in the pursuit of something that's that sweet and romantic, you're going to blame your partner and tell them what you need in a way that's probably not reasonable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fact, most times when we are doing something, Catherine, in fact, just did it right now. She said, I really need you, baby. She can't drive my car. She's too afraid of it, Chevelle. So she really needed me to go help move the cars. Okay. Now she still said, baby, what are you working on right now? Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah.
Right? That's when you saw me turn away. It's a check-in.
Right.
Because we're trying to connect and get on the same page.
Right.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Now we take this to the workplace with that employer, the supervisor you're talking about. Right? I would expect you, if you learn from me, from you, that you would end up saying best day of my life and you'd go there with an attitude. But I'm going to tell you something right now. How many times, James, have you and I said, good morning? Good morning. We do call almost every morning, guys.
Yeah.
We said, good morning. How are you, buddy? How are you, brother? Best day of my life.
Yep.
And then immediately after, the truth comes out. So we're choosing the best day of our life, but then the authenticity is there, and we'll say, I'm actually really struggling with this though right now.
Yeah.
Boom, we can get right to the root of it. What if you could go into work and say, best day of my life, I'm actually having a really tough time with my wife
Yes.
or my husband
Yeah.
or my kid. Or I'm actually struggling. I've been drinking too much. Yeah. I'm feeling XYZ, right? If you could actually tell the truth with the 7 human bleeds that we have identified, especially with your partner, but you're going to see a culture build in your office. You're going to see the culture in your home grow.
Yes.
If you're not inherently focused, we got a few comments like, what do you do if they're like completely emotionally needing checked out and needing time, right? Well, you do need time, but the time doesn't have to be perfect tomorrow and running down the hall to see you when you get home so excited, because you're going to have levels of intimacy and connection grow if you stop freaking correcting.
That's right.
Stop saying you're doing this wrong. This is what I need. That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's right. I know last week's course on our 16 Weeks to Connection course that we have, I talked about how, when you have to deal with things or you have to say difficult things, it's better to just, we're taught, and I was taught this in the workplace, sandwich the hard conversation. I don't believe there are hard conversations if you're showing up authentically in them. Matter of fact, I just had a one-on-one coaching session right before our call here at my dining room table. And, I was like, this difficult person is not a difficult person. It feels difficult because you don't know how to show up in that space, and you're angsty and you're frustrated and you're stressed out. And so when we get to but we're taught to sandwich the negative between two positives. Cass, your personality and your passion are just wonderful, but you're not meeting quota and your breath stinks, but you really are handsome. It doesn't work. That's baloney. Just say what needs to be said. We don't need to placate to try to soften stuff. We just come in and say it. But the truth of the fact is, you can have the best day of your life and it be the most difficult and hardest day of your life. It's still the best day of your life. It is the mindset that you have. It is the only day that you have. And when you're in the situation of trying to build connection, the one thing that you can't do is pretend like you think it's the best day of your life, thinking that those words are going to have power, because the energy behind the truth of that or the lie of that is going to go before you.
100%. And we're taught to bring that to a place where we have to hide.
Yes.
That's why we end up faking best day of my life, or I'm fine. That's a really common one. I'm fine is probably the most common one, right? We see that by example. We're not taught to say you're fine in most cases, but we see the example when we know we're not fine. Like this listener here saying, or this watcher here saying, how can you connect where no matter how you say what's bugging you, what's wrong, there's never a good time, and he always turns it down and gets defensive and angry. See, that's exactly what we're talking about. You've probably got to a point, I don't even have to say probably, I know you've gotten yourselves to a point where he's checking out, doesn't care, doesn't want to feel shamed and guilt for what he's doing wrong, and now there is no time to talk. So this is where, we go so much deeper. Like James was just talking about our 60 weeks connection that we're about 3/4 of the way through on our app. Moral is like basically all these things that you have to do in order to create enough connection where he can start to tune back in. And see, as we teach, whether it's our relationship course or whether it's our identity course or just the simplified 16-week connection, as we teach these things, you start to realize, Watcher, that what happens is you're really truly needing to understand you. See, nobody can fill your cup. Nobody can also anchor you. He doesn't want to talk to you right now. That doesn't have to affect you. That's exactly what we mean when we say best day of our life.
Yes.
But I'm going through this. In my program, I would teach, like, we sing our life out like a Disney song in our home. We do that intentionally. Everybody watches a Disney movie and they get caught up in the songs. Am I wrong? No. So what happens? We change the atmosphere in our home. Now it's going to bother him. It's going to annoy him or her. Somebody else was talking about his wife earlier. It's going to piss them off because it's A, not typical, but neither is saying best day of my life. Right. It's B, kind of annoying singing your song until you start to let go of who cares if my lyrics don't rhyme.
Yeah.
or whatever the heck. In fact, when I do it, I'm just like, I'm taking the girls to the store. I don't even have to have a line. I don't have to follow that up with anything.
Right.
Right. So it's all about your choices. By the way, that is connecting when they start to go in on it with you.
Yeah.
When the kids come up with their own line or to start their own song. Why can't we be more like that at work?
Yeah.
Why can't we be more like that in a store? I am, because I know who I am. If I'm at the store with Catherine and we don't often do this, but we choose to go different directions, James, I'll be like, He-Man. She'll be like, She-Ra. Or there's a line from that movie Bug's Life, I think. It's like the ant gets separated and he's like, I'm lost. I will yell that shit across the fucking entire Walmart. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it makes people laugh? No. Because I'm like having a fun time.
Right. That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sending a message of connection to my wife. Baby, I need you. Where are you?
Yeah.
In a fun way.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. There's an SNL skit from sometime probably in the last 20 years called Debbie Downer. And it's this character in the program where everybody's having a good time. And then Debbie Downer just comes in and says, yeah, I've probably got like 2 days to live and my mom's this. And just in the middle of every happy situation, there's always some absurd, I mean, like overly absurd, depressing complaint or something. And it's like, oh, well, we just cheer, we just toasted our guys getting married tomorrow. And now you Debbie downed it down to the destructive. Let's just go home. Most people, and I spoke to a spouse yesterday, Cass, that said to me these words, my husband adds nothing positive to this home. And it would be better for the joy of me and the children if he didn't live here. That in and of itself. And that man took that so personally that he became more negative. And it's just one of those things. I had someone tell me that in 2007. They looked at me, a friend of mine, standing in my kitchen in California and said, James, would you even want to spend time with you? And I'm like, no, and that's a wake up call for a lot of people. But the answer is not just change your attitude, just have a better outlook. That's not possible because sometimes the complaining and the depression and the things that are going on in your life are so significant, you don't know where to go. You've lost hope, you've lost light, and it affects your relationship. And you think, well, if I could just get my relationship back on task, oh my God, I'd feel so much better. So that's an external thing. If I could just get X or get to X, then I would be happy. That's not going to work. What we teach in our programs is to help you find who you truly are and see the centeredness of that joy being the power that can't be taken from you. And then you bring that into, it doesn't ignore the hard stuff. It doesn't pretend like it doesn't happen. It's not fake it till you make it. It's literally transforming the way you see the world. Can you find one good thing about the day and be grateful for it? That's a start. And unfortunately, culturally, biologically, physiologically, spiritually, psychologically, we're not taught to do that. We're taught to get up every day, check the news, be bummed out, bitch and complain, and to spread it all over social media. And by the end of the day, if we see a good video about a good cookie recipe, we don't even care. We don't even care. And we carry that into our relationships. We carry that into the workplace. And as supervisors and bosses and owners, it's costing us not just relationships. It's costing us our very livelihood.
Oh, it is. I mean, if you guys could consider just thinking about this couple you're talking about yesterday, I was coaching a man last night, same sort of thing, right? The answer always led to, if I could just get my life back, if I could just get back together with her, I will be happy. And that's not true, because ultimately you go back to what we see in the comments here. Like, here's another one. I used to have fun, but now I was told I'm embarrassing and I need to stop. You don't get to stop being you.
You don't.
You don't.
You don't have to.
I took a video yesterday because, we like to put out videos of our real life online. And, it was at the playground for Rick's birthday, and Vale's doing the watch me thing we were talking about earlier. And she's in a white shirt, climbing down a rope and rolling in the freaking dirt. Or there's a really awesome video we got of us splashing in puddles, some of them like a foot deep, some of the holes that we jumped in, right? And we were down having the time of our life. And do you know what? If you were doing that puddle shit or your kids rolling in the dirt, most parents are going to say, no, 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 no. In fact, that's how I started it. And Catherine, this is just last summer. And Catherine said, Catherine actually said no with me. And then the next thing you know, she's the first one to jump in the puddle, splashed us all. We had so much fun. You know what happened? Everybody around us was taking pictures and videos and laughing and smiling and having a blast, experiencing it through our joy. You know what I was not happy about? All of us being in muddy puddle clothes water or clothes full of this muddy puddle, and then being in our vehicle and having to clean that up after. But you know what happened? Every single one of us connected because we are taught as a society to follow these rules. And so when your husband tells you, I'm assuming, yeah, because you said he said you're embarrassing, I think. But when your spouse tells you, stop, that's them being embarrassed. That's them having a label to deal with.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. Now, I'm not saying jump in puddles at work or at the grocery store. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What I am saying is if you understand who you are and you think about what you want to do to correct versus connect.
Yeah.
No, imagine you saying to your spouse right now, no, we're having fun. We're singing the songs like a Disney movie. No, we're jumping in the puddles. Whether you like it or not, you're correcting.
Yeah.
Just smile and say,
Do it.
I can appreciate why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Now you at least open the door for connection. Yeah, the puddles are dirty. Yeah, the white shirt's probably going to be ruined.
Yeah.
You know, now if you add on the financial stress that's going through your mind and why you're sucking at work because you're so focused and you're not sleeping and all that stuff, and you're like, I got to buy another shirt. When you don't have to spend a lot of money, really. I mean, they're kids. If that's a problem in your life, you figure this out differently.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we're so focused on what will appease our boss, our spouse. You know, our children are learning this behavior, by the way.
Yes. And it's perpetuating the nonsense. It's perpetuating the lack of focus, the lack of identity, the lack of truth. And I mean, I use the phrase a lot, Cass. You hear me say this, that I'm living in my truth. I'm living my truth, and I'm speaking my truth. I'm not talking about facts and things that I believe are true. I'm talking about being myself. And it bothers some people to hear me say that kind of stuff because it confuses them because their truth are masks, roles, religion, you know, all relationships and all these other things that they perform, and they've forgotten who they are in the middle of that, at the core of that. And then they've looked in the mirror so long at the mask, they think the mask is them. And the mask that says, children, I don't like being dirty. My 12-year-old cleaned her room, set it all up, new furniture, everything. Everything was just beautiful. She's, oh man, this looks like a hotel room. I love it. 3 days later, it looks like a tornado. Okay, went through there and destroyed the hotel. Well, the old me years ago just had this intensity when things were not in order. And I walk in there and there's a plate of food that's not supposed to be in there because one of my rules is don't eat out of the designated areas. But I don't lecture those rules. I just pick the plate up and put it on the table. Say, hey, come in this way. Come on. And I do it like that. And I'll put it on the table. Or when and I said, hey, I need you to clean this room. Do you need some help? You need some direction? Just at least get the dirty clothes over here. 20 minutes later, she's outside swinging. And I walk up there and I'm not triggered by the mess. I'm not triggered by the fact she's not doing what I asked her to do. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. So I out there swinging. I said, hey, Abby. Yes. I said, your bedroom's upstairs. What? I said, your bedroom's upstairs. You're not going to be able to reach it when you're swinging down here. So, you know, she gets
connection, guys.
That's it. It's just connection.
That's just having a fun
it's
time
just
with
having
it.
fun. And then ultimately there were tears because it was a lot of work, but we worked the tears. And she went back in that room yesterday. I said, oh my goodness. I said, how did it feel to walk into this room? She goes, I forgot that I cleaned it until I walked in. This is really cool. You know, so now she's proud of what she did, not proud of my validation. Now there's a connection there. I didn't get what would I've done the last time. What did I say? What did I ask you to do? Why isn't it done? You got 5 minutes or I'm taking your laptop. Which is connecting? Which of those scenarios wants to make that kid come back and sit in my lap at 7 o'clock after dinner? All right.
And you just nailed it with the laptop too. Now you're really correcting because now you're correcting through punishment that doesn't even align. Yeah. Consequences don't align, right?
It's
ridiculous. And we do the same thing at work, right? We start trying to appease and get new roles. That's one of the number one things we'll see in a business where like, okay, so you really like Ashley, right? Okay? You really like Ashley, and you know she believes in the culture. So what can we get Ashley to do? Well, what if you did the work together with Ashley? Yeah. Instead of saying, here's the loom, here's the SOP. right? What if you actually assign someone who could team with them? You could do this with your kids, by the way, right? You don't have, like you mentioned it, do you want me to clean the room with you? They might say no.
Yeah.
But listen, it's a lot easier in our home if I'm involved with our children when they have responsibility. So in other words, they might leave the garbage everywhere, and we're taught by society to say, tell them they have to work ethic, all this shit.
Yeah.
No. You're not listening. They
Yeah.
can learn to work hard with you when there's chores to be done. I don't know about your house, but my house is never ending. Pretty sure all houses are tornadoes. They leave their garbage around. What if we help them? Now they learn work ethic, responsibility. Oh, wait, what else? Teamwork. And then, by the way, they're learning that I'm a leader.
Yeah.
Not to follow me, but
Yeah.
they're going to learn what leadership is.
That's right.
So that one day they can talk to Ashley in the workplace and make sure that Ashley doesn't get fired down the road and we have to spend all this money on training and all this money on wasted time for meetings when she's not present and she's just all upset because all of these other things are actually in the way. You guys need to understand how important connection is.
Right.
And that's why we say connection over correction.
Yeah.
If you can get to the bottom of it with curiosity and really start to understand that you are a leader when you are trying to connect,
Yes.
because the world is out for themselves, man.
That's right.
They just are.
That's right.
Think about it. When you start to connect with Ashley, she starts talking about the problems she's having at home. She's only out for herself right now.
Yeah. That's right.
Right.
And when you talk about building, when we talk about building connection in the organization or the company, a lot of people, and there's a lot of programs and people pushing programs, and there's a lot of good programs out there. But I remember in working with companies over the years, we created this opportunity, and we're going to all go do this as team building exercise, or we're going to do the team building exercise. And I mean, these things had their place in the 1980s, and when the interest rate was 38%. But it just, things are not a permanent fix. And yeah, we went and had a good time at the bowling. We went and had a good time at the ropes course. We had a good time at the whatever. But we get back to the office, it's the same old trash. It's the same old expectation. It's the same thing. As a boy, I grew up next to the football field for the high school. And there was not a Friday afternoon that I did not see the superintendent of schools picking up trash on the street next to the stadium. The superintendent picking up trash on the street. He didn't get out there and say, they didn't get the trash out. He picked it up. And you know what else I saw as a young boy? Many of the football players out there doing it with him. Many of the community out there doing it with him. People will follow the leader. And so instead of coming into the office saying, okay, you got to have hard conversations. The numbers are down, stress, this is happening, finances are tough. Bob, you're smoking in the break room. We know it. We saw you. We could smell you. Susan, you need to brush your teeth because when you're talking to clients, they're gagging. All right. Now that that's out of the way, here we are. Let's be real. Let's connect and make connection part of what we do. We don't have workplace etiquette and home etiquette because what I've found is the way most people treat their kids is the way they treat their employees and their direct reports. And then they wonder why there's no connection there. And they praise them for a job well done, but then that expectation is raised. Today's gift, today's prime, I think this is Dale Carnegie, is tomorrow's expectation. And it works both ways. So as a supervisor, as someone who owns a company, you're never going to actually get anything truly productive out of your people if it's not pressure, praise, or persistence. And if those three things are not all, you just can't manage it. Why? Because you wipe yourself out. It's exhausting. However, when you get to the core of creating a culture where the actual infrastructure, where the DNA, where the pulse of a team, if you're a big corporation, you still got small teams, or an office, when you have a team that actually can sit down and go, you know what, I know who we are, I know who I am, I know where I sit in this space, and not only this, but this is helping me be a better person at home, and my home life is helping me be a better person at work, and it's not divided, it's not segmented. The productivity that comes from that, and I hate even use the word productivity, but the purpose that comes out of that reality is insurmountable, no matter what problems arise. Because the problems are handled through integrity, not through intimidation.
Here, let me give you a real-time example with us right now, with Marvel. Okay? If you don't know, you're not aware, social media has completely changed since January this year.
Yep.
Completely changed. Meaning, if you are not a follower, you are more likely to see my content unless you're intentionally going to my page.
Right.
It doesn't matter the platform. Their AI is purposely trying to get anybody with basically an opportunity to grow right now. You could go viral with one post right now.
Yep.
right? In fact, matter of fact, I got several, but we had to change the way we're doing things. Now, because of the culture, because of the way we've built the people that like the team that helps me with my social media, whether that be editing or finding people that we need to talk to or looking for help or whatever, the culture is so strong in the way I built it. Like I'll give you an example. Yesterday, somebody was helping me post and put a little hook on the top. The one-liner that gets people's attention so they know what the reel is about. And I just said, hey, my friend, can you please bring it just a touch lower? And at first that sounds like correction, but what I did was actually ask him how he was doing and what's going on with him first, because he's doing a great job.
Right.
I don't have to get mad that this is a problem he's had over and over and over again.
Right.
To find out what's going on. You know what he said? He's having a lot of problems. He's feeling very worried about doing a good job because the economy's changing over where he's at. Well, no shit. Iran's fucking up everybody right now.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
And so we got more connected, and then I was able to just ask him just politely, and he's no problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
But the reason why they're all working so hard, and I mean like overtime right now, whether it's research, analytics, trying to do whatever, is because everybody cares so much because of our connection. They know that I care about them, and they want to take care and pride in what they're doing. I've also helped them with their personal lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that when people know you care, you can't feign and fake care. And I know a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to care. You don't. But if you're a caring person, you won't have to take time to care. You'll just care instinctively and and you won't do it as at the cost of anything else. You don't have to care at the cost of truth. You don't have to care. I can't tell you, an organization that I was like almost second chair, if you will, second to the highest spot back in the early 2000s. And I had two people in a place of operations that they were not thriving. And everybody on the board was like, fire them. We got to get rid of them. They're making too many mistakes. Okay, you know what? I went to them. I said, hey, I love you guys. And this is what you're doing in this job does not work. And it is not working. You're not going to be able to maintain this position. However, because of who you are and what I've seen in you, I think these roles over here in the company would be a lot better suited for you. So the tears immediately went from pain. It hurts to be told that you suck, but it's the truth. Then to almost, wow, peace, because wow, I do have a purpose over here. Thank you for seeing that in me. That's what care does. Care doesn't say, well, I care too much to fire them. No, I fired them and then rehired them over here.
Yeah, and this is important because we talked about this earlier, where you're scrambling to find a role versus being so connected, you know what that role could be like.
Correct.
And guys, apply this in your marriage too. If you have expectations of what your partner is or is not supposed to do, how they are or not supposed to treat you, maybe you made deals. I'll stay home with the kids and I'll go to work, right? Usually what I'm talking about is the other way around. I'll stay home, you go to work. But like, if we make those deals, it typically it's creating premeditated contempt, because now we have expectations and entitlement of what we do and do not deserve. Like when somebody's talking about, when I do something, it's a huge problem, but when he does it, it's not okay. Listen, what is it that you're doing? Like, what is it that is a problem? Because check your identity. Do you appreciate it? I'll give you an example of what I'm thinking of. For example, if he's saying yelling, it's okay when he yells, but it's not okay when you yell. That'd be like a common example with what you're describing right now.
Right.
But listen, I decided I didn't like being angry every day, having war on my chest. I decided to not want to fight with my number one relationship, my wife. Right. I decided I didn't want to fight and scream at my clients, yell at them when they didn't pay me or whatever. I decided to know who I wanted to be. So at that point now, you start to have a new leg to stand on. It's been 1 month, 3 months, a year, where you don't yell, but you also don't check out.
Yeah, that's right.
You also don't coast. You also don't just shut down. You have to go through it. This is your spouse.
Yes.
Or these are the employees you said you cared about. Right. Remember what James said? We can tell if you actually care. It's obvious. You just care.
Right.
Right. You don't find time for it. It just happens. Right. And so if you actually have integrity, you know who you are as a woman. I think that was a woman who said that. Yeah, because she said he doesn't. But like if you actually know who you are, you got time, man. We're talking about eternity, actually. But if you don't believe in God, you still got the rest of your life. Yeah. And too many people think about wasting the next few decades instead of realizing wait a minute, if Cass and Catherine could come back from the depths of hell, if they could save 8,000 couples in the last, it's not 8,000 couples, sorry, 8,000 people in the last 4 years, well then what is it that I don't know? Like, why am I blaming on a comment when we talk about this all the time? Take responsibility for who you are.
Yes.
It's not okay for him to yell, but not because when you do it. No, it's because you don't do it anymore.
Right.
And just that one example, gosh, we can list 150 in probably 3 minutes. Okay. You know, by the way, really quickly, somebody mentioned the music that you found those songs. I'm so glad you love them, guys. I'm not a musician. I don't sing those things. I just write those things. They're based off my many viral and written posts. Okay. And I know that they're common issues that we all go through. And so I've written these songs in a way that you can find the idea of the solution in them. But if you watch them on YouTube, like that's why I've only have them on YouTube, not Spotify stuff, is because I want you to click over to the podcast episode from Moral Marriage with my wife and learn more, change it.
Yeah.
And that's why James and I are doing our podcast here, The Human Bleed, is because we want you guys to have more opportunities to hear more solutions.
Yes.
We want to have these conversations because we talk every day on the phone where James said, why don't we just do this live and give more to people? And I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. Right? We want you guys to understand the identity that you hold within yourself must match no matter what relationship you're in, whether you're an employee, an employer, a supervisor. It's affecting the bottom line, your bottom line, even if you're an employee.
That's right.
It's affecting you. Okay. Because we see the statistics on turning over, and that just means you also lost your job, like James was just talking about. We see this with your number one relationship for obvious reasons. With your home, these 7 human bleeds weigh you down. They're fucking up your relationship with your kids.
Yes.
Right. If you don't understand connection, you're messing with human bleed number 1.
Yeah, that's right. And the human bleeds, for those of you who don't know what they are, I mean, you know, we've got marriage, relationships, we've got hormonal and physiological changes, we've got parenting, we've got financial stress, substance abuse, and gosh,
grief, loss, and identity. Yeah.
You know, and all of these things, they're all compounding. They work together everywhere you are. You know, interestingly enough, you know, my new birthday and your son's birthday is the same, April 8th, right? And
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I just turned 3 yesterday. 3 years.
Oh, happy birthday, buddy.
Man. 1,098 days today with no anxiety, no stress, no triggers. It doesn't mean that the circumstances of my life have changed, but through all the years of just being a performer in life, it came to a head April 3rd. March the 4th of 2023. And by April 8th, which was 35 days, I became the man that I am today. It hasn't been easy, but that's what I teach. And that's what Cass teaches, his transformation. I teach my transformation. So we're experts on our lives. And we believe that and not only believe it, we've proven with thousands of people over the last few years, even more so with Cass and Catherine, 8,000 people over the last 4 or 5 years that have seen absolute permanent and complete transformation from the inside out. And that's why we have these conversations, because Cass and I have grown each other exponentially over the last few years together as friends, as business partners, as, you know, scoundrels and whatever, crime lords or whatever you want to call us. We're doing what we do because it's who we are. And we now see that one of the best places to actually put this stuff out on social media and help you see, one of the best things that we can do now is to get into an area that nobody's been into. And that's to teach this stuff at the corporate level, teach this stuff in the organizational level, teach this stuff in there, because the home is going to come to work and the work is going to come to home. So we want to marry these two together, no pun intended.
Yeah, the reality is we're taught to try to compartmentalize it, leave work at work. And yes, there is truth to that. But what we don't want to do is leave the skills at either one of the places, meaning anywhere we go in life. And, you know, what happened with James and I is that as we developed ourselves together, as we helped more people, we started to realize that these bleeds were affecting us everywhere.
Yes.
And you might not think that. I mean, most of people are going to see this or following my content, and it's going to be all relationship based pretty much. Okay.
Right.
But the reality is, think about it. It's if you're struggling financially, which is the vast majority of the United States of America right now. Okay. If you're struggling financially, right? Why? It's not just because my spouse spends the money. See, that's where we're starting to correct again. Okay, we need to do a budget. Oh gosh, no, man. What if you get on the exact same damn page?
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
You know, as we're revamping our social media right now, and in fact, even some of my biggest mentors, their social media is down. They got millions of people. I only got 1.5 million followers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're seeing it across the board. That's obviously affecting bank accounts.
Yes.
It's not just you, it's everyone. And so what we have to do at the core of that is understand lessons like this. If I can connect, not just go panic, right? Skills that we would teach in our program, how to deal with anxiety, like James was talking about for himself, right? If we can understand that you're ruled by your values and who you are and where you want to go, and you can see and identify these bleeds, and that's what we help you with, right? But we can identify exactly what's going on. Now you can address the real issues, not the symptoms. For example, all the sexless stuff that goes viral that I write.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are fighting about not having sex when you need to connect.
Yes.
And women are trying to tell men this in most cases. I mean, I got a reel going mega viral right now on Instagram about this, sexual marriage, what to do. And there's tons of women saying, no, it's the other way around. He doesn't want to have sex with me. But it's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's the same damn thing.
That's right. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because, you know, we talk about relationships because life is about relationships at home, relationships in community, at work. But there's a relationship aspect that we often overlook, and it was the one that I overlooked, and that was the relationship with me, my relationship with me. It's the most intimate and most important relationship you'll ever have. And because people don't focus on that, because people don't come to the table and go, I'm willing to do that uncomfortable work for just a few months to really get this started, because I got 40 years or 30 years or 50 years in my case of the same lack of focus in that area. I don't know what to do. We end up seeing a holistic, just like a flush toilet. Everything is in flush mode. And when we stay at the side, I mean, imagine being in a toilet bowl and, oh, look, I grabbed the side, I'm safe for now, but you still got a whirlpool trying to suck you down. But when you focus on the relationship with yourself, you'll get into a place where things will just unfold for you in a way that could never happen before. And when we started looking at what this was costing marriages, children, society, we thought, oh my gosh, what is it doing in the work? What is it doing in the business? What is it doing in the workplace? Just the conversations, just being in a situation in a home where you live a parallel life. We call that roommates. Just being in an issue where, you know, you're having some small financial strain, not something bad where everybody's drinking to go to sleep tonight and about to kill themselves. I'm just talking about, wow, man, it's just hard. It's hard to pay these bills. Produces a 40% drop in productivity in the workplace. 40%.
Check that. And if it's producing the 40% productivity in the workplace, you're losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you could solve the problem, because the productivity is down at home too, by the way,
yep.
Right? How much time is wasted with these conversations?
Right.
She ain't getting done. Right? Then it goes back to the workplace again, because now the problem is stacking. Another bleed's coming in.
Yep. It comes in.
And then when we try as employers to solve the problem with employee assistance programs, for example, we're not even trying to address you know what, I see we got some counseling program protocols you can go through. That's what your HR is giving you. And that's the therapy is not even working for modern marriages today. Right. It's no longer relevant. You know, you've been a counselor. Pastors and therapists are joining our programs. Matter of fact, we just got referred. A couple got referred by their therapist and their pastor, coincidentally. Yeah. They both had seen our content, and they both, not talking to each other, of course, talked to their clients and said, you got to call these people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, it's crazy when you start to understand this. But however, we're going to have to say goodbye today, guys. I've got to go invite someone into the program. So thank you. This has been another episode of The Human Bleed. Appreciate you guys. And we're going live every single day.
Every day.
Except for the weekends. We sell family.